When I first time trialed this course about a year ago for my league, I managed to get a time of 207.515, and when I sat down to put a run together for this video, I figured, hey, how hard can that be to beat? It's almost a full 8 seconds off a record, and I've gotten a lot better at the game since then. Little did I know how frickin' difficult it was going to be to beat that time. That is, until I managed to figure out one simple change in strategy that saved me 3 seconds over the course of the run. Welcome to part 30 of Basic Training, where we're going to cover everything you need to know about Piranha Plant Slide on 150cc. As always, we're going to cover the recommended builds, mushroom strats, coin lines, and other advanced tips and tricks to help you start mastering the course. This tutorial is going to be broken down into 3 parts. In part 1, I'm going to go over a basic version of the run that won't include any advanced strategies whatsoever, and is designed to be widely reproducible so that you can easily conquer the Staff Ghost. In part 2, I'm going to go over the strategies that I use in my current personal best. Finally, in part 3, I'm going to go over the world record strategies. And to help put all of this into context, I'm going to be including a full replay in every part of the tutorial. Before we get into the video, I just want to say that if you're finding these tutorials useful, I'd really appreciate if you drop a like and a comment to let me know. This type of thing not only lets me know that you're enjoying the content, but it also lets YouTube know to recommend these videos to other racers who might be looking for tips and tricks on how to improve. Also, I release a new video every week, so hit that subscribe button and the notification bell beside it so that you can stay up to date with all my latest content. With all that out of the way, let's clean out the pipes. The recommended build for this course is going to be our usual try-hard build of Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider. Piranha Plant Slide is a pretty difficult course, but surprisingly there aren't really that many twists and turns on it, so the try-hard build works out just fine. The thing is though, with Waluigi being a heavy character, it can make a couple of spots really tricky to navigate properly, and if you're having trouble, you can always switch to a lighter character like Yoshi or Daisy. The reason is that, like many of the retro tracks, Piranha Plant Slide loves to leave random crap on the ground that gives you airtime, and it's a lot safer to do course correction with lighter characters than it is with heavier characters. That's enough of that though, let's check out the track. So, at the start of the run, we're going to make our way over to the rightmost coin and trick off the ramp. Then straighten yourself out and you should land on the red path below. When tricking off the ramp going into the pipe, we want to be holding up on the joystick to do a so-called up trick. Keep holding up to get back down to the ground as quickly as possible, and then trick off the next ramp. Keep holding down the drift button and left on the joystick so that when you land you'll immediately start a left drift. And then after building up the mini turbo, drive to the left of the Piranha Plant and trick off the ramp to grab the 3 coins. Now that bit can be somewhat tricky to learn. The way the ramp is angled, it's likely that you'll be flung a bit off to the left or the right, but with this setup, the worst that can really happen is that you'll miss a coin or 2. But it's not that big of a deal because there's a bunch of extra coins that we can grab on the track that aren't too far out of the way. Now, after tricking off the ramp behind the Piranha Plant, you want to again keep holding down the drift button and left on the joystick to start a left drift immediately upon landing. Build up a mini turbo around this turn and then make your way to the right hand side of the track to hit the orange boost ramp. What you want to do here is land on the floating platform, grab the 3 coins, and only after grabbing those coins do you want to start a left drift. If you start the drift too early, you'll fall off the platform early, and let's just say that if this happens, all hell will break loose and your run will die so fast. After you start the left drift, you want to then hold right on the joystick to widen your drift angle. Grab one of the coins on top of the first pipe and then wait until you're on the right hand side of the second pipe before releasing the Super Mini Turbo. Build up another Super Mini Turbo around the right turn before the big pipe, and we're done with that section of the track. Now pretty much everything from the Piranha Plant ramp through the weird pipe section we just covered is much more difficult to execute than I made it look here. So far, out of all the videos I've put together, Piranha Plant Slide is the one that's taken me the longest to get a level 1 run together for. That's just because there are very few techniques for navigating this course in a way that's both safe and decently fast. So let's talk about the myriad ways in which this course is going to try and screw you. All this is going to apply doubly when we go over my PB strats, by the way. First, when tricking off the Piranha Plant ramp, I mentioned that the worst that's usually going to happen is that you'll miss some coins. It's also not out of the realm of possibility that you fall into the pit. It's not super common if you're not going for advanced strats, but just be aware that before tricking off this ramp, you do kind of want to pay attention to whether or not you're going toward the pits. The next thing that can go wrong is the orange boost ramp section. If you miss the platform here, you may as well just restart your run. Reasons being that 1, you're going to miss out on a ton of coins this way, and 2, you'll fall onto the track below. And this is really, really bad, because what's going to happen is that part of the track will act like a ramp and make you fly into the air, which can make you run into a wall or fall off the track at the sharp turns. Speaking of those turns, the entire reason that we held a wide drift angle throughout this whole section is that it allows us to easily navigate those turns consistently. This part of the track is not like Rainbow Road where there's a nice smooth curve that you can hang off the track with. If you take this turn too tight, you will clip the corner and fall off, and it's so frustrating when that happens. The other reason why we want to take a wide drifting line around that second pipe is because going off of it is going to give us some airtime, which is going to make it really hard to take a good line around the following turn. But yeah, once you've gotten the basics down, the hardest part is just to make sure that you're doing those immediate landing drifts that we talked about. Now, once we've gotten through that nightmare that I just spent the last few minutes rambling about, the rest of the track is pretty straightforward. Trick off the ramps in the pipe, again making sure to do up tricks, and also make sure that for the second trick that you're as close to the left-hand side of the track as possible. After this up trick, we're going to keep holding kind of an up-left angle on the joystick so that we can land immediately in a drift again, and then we're going to want to hold kind of a hard left until just before we're about to bonk the wall. Then it's basically a combination of wide and neutral drift angles all throughout this long turn, releasing our drift once we've built up another Super Mini Turbo. If you need some more coins, grab the two from just before the final two orange boost ramps, and then just drive straight until you can trick off the glider. Speaking of this glider, it's a huge turd. It's really hard to gauge exactly how high you're going to be when you get off of it, so what I recommend is just waiting until you stop going up before you start trying to make your way back down to the track. Because if you start trying to hold up on the joystick too early, what can happen is that you'll bonk into the wall and then fall into the pit below. Now to finish up the lap, all you have to do is start a left drift, mushroom through the grass, and build up a mini turbo. Laps 2 and 3 play more or less the same as lap 1, with the exception being that in the interest of keeping things as safe and consistent as possible, I'm going to recommend that you just drive around the left-hand side of the Piranha plant in the tunnel instead of trying to replicate that Piranha plant ramp trick that we did on lap 1. Now before checking out the run, let's quickly recap the coin lines. Your first coin will come at the very start of the run from the rightmost ramp. Your next 3 coins will come from the ramp just beyond the Piranha plant. Coins 5, 6, and 7 will come from the floating platform on the right after the orange boost ramp. If you're good at drifting and quite lucky, coins 8 and 9 will come from the pipe on the right-hand side of the track after the floating platform. While we haven't covered this yet, in my PB strats, coin 10 is going to come from the pipe on the left. Now all that being said, some of the coins on this track can be really difficult to get, so if you're missing some, there are 2 places where you can pick up some spares. The first will be a set of 2 right before the turd glider, and the second will be another set of 2 just before the mushroom shortcut. Alright, let's check out a full replay of the level 1 run. Moving on to PB strats, the run starts similarly to before, with moving to the right hand side of the track to grab the first coin and then tricking off the ramp. However, now it's super important to make sure you're doing an up trick here and continuing to hold up on the joystick, because what you're going to want to do is just after you land, start a left drift and trick off the ramp. You won't have time to build up a mini turbo this way, but it's going to set you up in a good line for the next strategy, which builds on what we did in level 1. Rather than just build up a mini turbo and then drive around the Piranha plant, we're going to actually want to immediately start a right drift and then build up another mini turbo before doing the trick. If you're going to go for this strategy and you're anything like me, after releasing that mini turbo, you're going to have the impulse to do a left hop to realign yourself before the ramp. But trust me when I say that you must ignore that impulse, because if you jump here, there's like a 90% chance that you're going to get airtime and miss the ramp completely. Now after that, we're somewhat in level 1 territory for a while, with the exception being that rather than building up a mini turbo around this turn, we're going to introduce some soft drifting to build up a super mini turbo. One thing that might not seem obvious is that if you're going for this super mini turbo, you still want to trick off the orange boost ramp, but you want to try and trick off the left edge of it to minimize airtime. Alright, now here comes the last major difference in strategy, and this is easily going to provide the biggest time save in the entire run. Back in the level 1 version, I said that we need to grab the 3 coins and then start a left drift and then just keep a wide drifting angle until we get around the rightmost pipe. Now the only reason I suggested this is because it's safe. But what you're seeing on screen now is way faster. So here's how it works. We're going to do exactly what we did before with the left drift into a wide drifting line, but now, just before getting to the first pipe, we're going to hang a hard left, which will cause us to take this turn super tight. And it's really important that you start holding down a hard left before you get to the pipe, because if you do it too late, you'll end up taking the turn really wide. The goal is to be taking this turn as close to the corner as possible, but like I mentioned earlier in the video, you need to be careful here because it's super easy to clip that corner and fall off the track. Now to finish up this section, we're obviously not going to be able to go around the pipe because of how tight we took the first turn, so what you're going to want to do is instead wait until just before you get to the pipe and then hop over it while holding right on the joystick so that you can grab the coin and land in a right drift. Not gonna lie, the timing on this is really precise, but if you're gonna screw it up, you definitely want to err on the side of hopping too early rather than hopping too late. If you hop too early, it'll just cause you to clip the pipe, which will give you a little bit of airtime, but ultimately this only causes you to take a slightly wider line than usual. However, if you hop too late, then you'll end up just tricking off the pipe, and this is gonna send you practically flying into the wall. Now as long as you're doing a hard right drift, you can actually avoid hitting the wall, but the line you're forced to take is gonna be awful. When I say that almost all the time save comes from this one section of track, it's not even this one section, it's literally the one turn after the first pipe. When I time trialed this course about a year ago, I set a time in the mid 207s, and when I came back to this course for the video, I just could not beat that time, and I couldn't figure out why. After realizing that I needed to hold a hard left before the first pipe, I immediately cut my time down by more than 2 seconds. I'm telling you, hitting this turn properly is really important, which is why I'm having this section play on repeat so much. Hopefully that's gotten the strat drilled into your heads because we're about to finish the run. It plays more or less the same as the level 1 run with 2 exceptions. First of all, after the wide underwater turn, we're going to want to let our cart go a bit off to the right to give us some room to build up another mini turbo before the 2 orange boost ramps preceding the glider. And then when we land from the glider, we're going to do a right counter hop into a left drift to take a tighter line through the mushroom cut and build up a super mini turbo. Now let's check out a full replay of my current personal best. Alright, finally we are moving on to the world record strategies. It's mostly the same as my personal best, but with 3 major differences. First, when going off the first underwater ramp, they take it a bit more to the left than I do. This causes them to take a super tight line around the following turn, and also get some airtime off this little ramp here. Now, in contrast to basically every other ramp like this in the game, here the airtime is actually beneficial because it allows them to keep going in the same direction while still charging a mini turbo in mid-air. Playing the world record side by side with my personal best, you can see that by the time I get to the Piranha plant, I'm a lot farther to the left than the world record is. Not only is the world record's line just cleaner in and of itself, but this setup actually makes it a lot easier to grab the 3 coins after the Piranha plant ramp. As you might have guessed though, it's really hard to do this properly. The next major difference is that super important turn that I had you guys stare at for like half the video. They take the turn really tight, but then they actually hop over the corner before the second pipe. This does cause them to get a bit of airtime after going off the second pipe, but it's not enough to throw off their line for the following turn. But again, this is really difficult to do properly. The last major difference between my current personal best and the world record is in the glider section. After building up the mini turbo around the wide turn, the world record starts a left drift and then does this really weird setup where they go off the orange boost ramps and into the wall to buy enough time to build a super mini turbo before going off the glider. As you might have guessed if you've been following my videos for a while, they use this super mini turbo to do glider vectoring, which in general is just faster than tricking off the glider, but this actually provides another benefit. If you'll recall, I called this glider a huge turd because it's really hard to see what's going on at the top of the glider section before you land, so I recommended just to wait until you got to the top and then make your way down to the track. The thing is though, if you have 10 coins, airspeed is slower than ground speed, and we want to minimize our time in the air as much as possible. If you execute this super mini turbo glider vectoring strat properly, the fact that you go off the glider at this really weird angle actually sets you up perfectly so that you can land on the ground immediately after getting off the glider. Again though, you can probably imagine just how difficult this strategy is to execute in real time. I've gotten it a couple times, but it was way too inconsistent for me to feel comfortable attempting it in my own runs. So who knows, maybe next year. Anyways, that's all the world record strategies. Let's take a look at a full replay of the current world record so that we can sit in amazement for a little while. And that's everything you need to know about Piranha Plant Slide on 150cc. Super difficult course, and really, unlike tracks such as Cheeseland and Dolphin Shoals or Rainbow Road, it's not the kind of difficulty that I enjoy very much. I mentioned how that one section of track with the 2 pipes in the ground was responsible for pretty much all my time save, and that's because navigating that turn properly means learning how to drive over terrain that basically has garbage strewn about it. There's a lot of stuff like that in this track and in many of the retro tracks where there's little ramps that will cause you to get airtime, but you need to actually get it in a specific way in order to save time, and that kind of stuff just feels really unsatisfying to drive on. Anyways, that's enough whining though. I will say that when I finally figured the track out, it did become a lot more fun to run. So yeah, if you don't get it right away, just keep at it, because with some practice, I'm sure that you'll all be able to put up some awesome times as well. I say this in pretty much all my videos, but I really do enjoy reading all the comments, so please let me know if and how much time you were able to save from following the advice I laid out in this tutorial. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.